Today, the topic posed before us is there should be equal legal repercussions for both men and women accused of domestic violence. Allow me to first define the key terms. 1. Equal, as defined by the Shorter Oxford English Dictionary, Volume 1, means being identical in amount, magnitude, number, value, intensity, neither greater or lesser than. 2. Legal repercussions, as defined by Merriam-Webster.com, means an action or effort given in return for a wrongdoing established by the law. 3. Accused according to the same source refers to charging one with a fault or a crime. And 4. Domestic violence, as clarified by the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act 22 of 2001, Commonwealth of Dominica Laws 2001, suggests that domestic violence includes physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, or financial abuse committed by a person against a spouse, a child, or any other person within the same household. In light of these definitions, my colleague and I firmly propose the topic. At this juncture, my arguments in support of our position will be, firstly, that women's violence against men often include the use of harmful objects, causing wounding, and so it is more serious than violence perpetrated by males. Next, I'll prove that laws do not discriminate against sex or gender, so men and women should be punished equally, irrespective of the sex being convicted. Lastly, the feminist position is equality for women in terms of pay, education, voting rights, etc. And therefore, so too should there be equality in penalties. Society tends to take domestic violence towards men as a joke, and women aren't fared. I called police headquarters on Tuesday, November 1st, 2016, requesting statistics of the reported cases of domestically abused men in Dominica. And the woman on the other end of the line laughed. She said, "Who would believe an abused man?" The officer laughed. However, there are cases of men being abused, even in our little region. Let's take a trip, man, to the top shutter island of Jamaica. You would never guess that men were being abused here. Yet, the Jamaica Gleaner, in an article entitled "Woman Handled, Policeman Sticks with Abusive Wife for 15 Years, written by Nadine Harris Wilson on September 2016, said, "As a member of the police force, he was feared on the streets, but Michael, a recent divorcee who is more than 180 pounds and 6 feet tall, admits that he was often abused by his girlfriend and later his wife, but did not retaliate because of his childhood's pledge to never hit a woman." The article further reports that battered Jamaican men represent 40% of domestic abused people in Jamaica. However, there is usually very little support for these men in national campaigns on domestic violence since, for the most part, they are catered to women. Honorable judges, the overwhelming attitude in the Caribbean is that men cannot be abused, and this belief is absolutely wrong. Now, let's come back to Dominica. In Dominica, according to Dominica News Online, in an article entitled "Domestic Violence Statistics Alarming," written on November 2014, Minister for Gender Affairs Gloria Shillingford reported July 2011 that there have been 717 reported cases of domestic violence. 620, that is 86.5%, were women, while 86, which is 12%, were men. The following year, 2015, Acting Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Kyra Paul, told Dominica News Online, "We know that violence against a woman and a girl in any form, whether it be physical or sexual abuse, is a major problem globally, and even in our little Dominica, we continue to see violence against women and have reports of this violence against women. However, it was never said that there should also be discussions on getting men to come forward about their abuse. Madam Moderator, men are as gullible to acts of violence from their partners as women are. As such, they should expect their attackers to face the same legal repercussions as they would. Speaking of equal repercussions, laws do not discriminate against a sex or gender. Men and women should be punished equally, irrespective of the sex being convicted. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica, enacted 1978, last amended 1984, states in Chapter 1, Section 13, Subsection 1, my most worthy opponents, that no law shall make any provision that is discriminatory either of itself or in its effects. This would mean that, in accordance to the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act 22, 2001, Commonwealth of Dominica Laws 2001, Part 8, Section 26(1), whereby a person against whom an order has been made and who has had notice of the order and contravenes any provision of the order or fails to comply with any direction of the court commits an offense and is liable to 1. On a first conviction, to a fine not exceeding $9,000 or imprisonment for 3 months. 2. On a second conviction, to a fine not exceeding $15,000 or to imprisonment not exceeding 24 months, or both the fine and imprisonment. And 3. On a third or subsequent conviction, to imprisonment for a term not less than 24 months but not exceeding 5 years. These sanctions apply to both sexes. Lawyer Anthony J.B. Commodore, former magistrate and owner of Elijah Law Chambers, enlightened me during an interview in November 2016. He said, laws are not based on a sex or gender. It's not based on weight, height, or build. If a man comes before the court presenting solid evidence or witnesses, regardless of society's preformed bias for women, the magistrate or judge will rule in his favor. After all, David was small, but he slew Goliath. Therefore, to all within the sound of my voice, riddle me this. If the laws make provisions for sexes to be dealt with equally, my most worthy opponents, who are we or who are you to say that women should be dealt with more leniently? The laws point toward equality of the sexes. So does feminism, which leads to my last point. The feminist position is equality for women in terms of pay, education, voting rights, etc., and therefore, so too should there be equality in penalties. Feminism refers generally to the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of equality of the sexes. Ms. Kathy Langley, lecturer of the Intro to Feminist Theory class, stated that feminism eradicates gender roles. This means that both men and women are capable of doing anything they put their mind to, especially when it comes to being violent in the home. Society hurts men by making others frown upon those who choose more feminine roles. They force men to be authoritative and unemotional. However, it is okay for a man to cry and report his abuser. So, it is time to remove the pink or blue wall that suggests that women should be punished more leniently than the man. My worthy opponents, are you saying that after all the hard work we put into getting voting rights and working, we should be tried more leniently than a man? My most worthy opponents, is that what you're saying? Today, I stand before you as a woman, knowing fully well that women should be equally punished as a man for domestic violence. Women who domestically abuse their spouse or partner are often quite violent. The law makes no provisions for discrimination against a specific sex. Sound evidence is what carries a case, and feminism priding itself on the equality of the sexes, is against gender roles. All of these reasons shows that women should receive the same penalties as a man for domestic violence. Need I remind you, whoever does the crime, be it Carl or Caroline, must, and I repeat, must do the time. Thank you.